On. So, greetings everyone. As Surabhi was mentioning, we are a full-service immigration law firm, and we work with individuals and businesses, to help them scale up their operations in different parts of the world, and our focus is predominantly on the UK. Um, if you have any questions during the course of this session, there is a Q&A box on your screens at the bottom. Feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A box, and we will address it towards the end of the session. We've left in slots for the questions on there. So we got first one live. So yeah, the webinar is applicable for everyone all around the world. So not just Asians, but anyone from around the world. Yeah. So um, that's what I'd like to state. So feel free to keep the questions coming. We've had a few of the questions in the preliminary registration as well. So I've got a few things to ask of Nick once he's run through his presentation as well. But just setting a little bit of context in terms of the opportunity at the moment. So UK is a pretty popular destination for Indians, and if you look at the statistics as well, Indians make up the second largest migrant group, and Poland is the first on the list, and we're likely to see this change, obviously, with the Brexit coming through in the next year as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Why people prefer the UK? For a variety of reasons. It has a strong and stable economy, offers multiple financial opportunities. It also is a hotbed for technology and commercialism as well. And obviously the healthcare and education that it offers to its residents is something which is quite interesting as well. It has a personal tax rate of about 20%. It starts from about £12,500 per annum, and then so that's tax free, and then everything after that gets taxed on a sliding scale. Corporate tax is at about 18%. It's down from 19% in the last year. Just to kind of give a perspective as well in terms of how the government has supported the businesses in the current pandemic scenario. The Chancellor announced a package of 1.25 billion pounds to support businesses that are driving innovation in the UK. As well as the SMEs, or small and medium-sized businesses, which are focused on research and development. They're getting in grants of up to 750 million as well. So clearly a lot of support for innovators, a lot of support for people with new ideas. And traditionally what we used to see was, there was a little bit of a reservation on the part of innovators to enter into the UK because they did not have an appropriate visa category. Well, now that's kind of been remedied with the Innovator Visa. Before we kind of jump into the different categories as well, which are available, part of the work that we do is we support individuals and businesses to enter into the UK, and we give them insights in terms of where they can be based in the UK, and what kind of businesses they could look at investing in, or what is it that they could look at starting in the UK. And what you see on your screen is just some of the research that we have, which kind of displays which are the top cities to live in, and what are the key businesses that are kind of in demand at the moment, even though with the current pandemic and everything. Just to kind of to let you know, this presentation will be available. This presentation right now is being streamed on Facebook, and a recording of this entire presentation will be made available. Also, this entire deck that we are going through at the moment will be made available to you. So feel free to kind of review that deck at your leisure on there. So looking at kind of which are the business migration options in the UK, the first off on the list is the Tier 1 investor. Now, the Tier 1 investor is designed for highly high net worth individuals, or ultra high net worth individuals, because it requires an investment of about £2 million. If I also use a rupee equivalent, it'll be about 18 crore rupees, that needs to be invested into the UK. Individuals can invest in their own businesses as well in the UK, or any other running businesses. And one of the initial advantages that it offers is that there isn't an English language requirement. So it does kind of work through for a certain section of people. Another route that UK encourages is the tier two. So companies which are based in India, when they want to expand their operations and they set up operations in the UK, they can apply for a tier two sponsor license, which then allows them to send executives or senior employees, or any other categories of employees to work either for a limited time or on a settlement visa in the UK. So quite a lot of businesses choose this route if they have frequency of employees that are going to move to the UK, and if they want to set up operations in the UK. And as a business, we help companies to do that as well, to set up their branches and subsidiaries in the UK. Another route that is quite popular is the sole representative visa. Sole representative visa is typically for businesses to test the waters, to allow them to explore the options, to say that, okay, can we expand our business in the UK? The good part about the sole representative visa is that there is no minimum investment criteria. So a company or an individual is not obligated to make an investment or commit to an investment as at the start of the applicant process. It only requires that the applicant should not be a majority shareholder in that particular business, and they can nominate a senior employee of the business to enter into the UK. Now, all the options that we're looking at is, they kind of allow for the applicant to enter the UK with their families as well. So they can enter with their spouse, and children till the age of 18 can apply and join them in the UK, and spouses are allowed to work as well in the UK. One of the questions that we get regularly on the tier one investor is around the LRS limits that the government sets. So under the liberalized remittance scheme, a person with a single PAN card can remit up to $250,000 in a single financial year. If you have to make a transfer of an amount which is greater than that, the only change is you need to apprise the Reserve Bank of India about your status and about your intention as to why you want to take that money. So if you can show them that you've got an investor visa, the requirement for an investor visa is to move that money out of India, and that the money in India is all tax paid and declared, and the sources of income are all valid, then you can apply to RBI for permissions, and generally you get that within 4 to 6 weeks to remit that. The last year in March 2019, the Home Office announced the Innovator and the Startup visas. The Innovator and the Startup visas are designed to encourage the next big idea, or person with the next big idea to be based in the UK and to drive innovation in the UK. And typically we do look at that. There are a lot of tech enabled businesses that look at making an application for the Innovator visas, but the category is open to individuals across sectors. So it's not restricted to a particular sector, only that your idea has to be innovative. And Nick's going to share a bit more light on that as well. The Innovator visa requires the innovators to have an investment of about £50,000 to be able to be eligible to apply for this visa. So it really makes it a lot more simpler for people with an idea that can make a difference to apply and enter the UK on this particular category of visa. The key part for the Innovator visa is that they require an endorsement from an endorsing body. The endorsing bodies are approved by the Home Office in the UK, and the endorsing bodies will generally evaluate the ideas, and they will give their opinion on whether this is something that they can work with or not. And we're very fortunate that we have Nick Roach from Innovator International joining us today. Innovator International is an endorsing body, which is approved by the Home Office for both the Innovator and the Startup visas. And it'll be quite interesting to get insights from Nick in terms of, what actually goes on in the background whilst, in an endorsing body whilst they evaluate an idea. So I'll hand you over to Nick, and we'll take it up from there. We've just got Nick. Sorry, we just got a raised hand from Shivangi, one of our Vedangi, one of our participants. I'm just going to reach out to her and kind of see if there's something that we could address. Vandana, you're unmuted if you want to speak.
As a result of that, so for example, none of our devices goes out without insurance. So our devices are insured for wear and tear, for breakage, and also for any sort of internal damage. And imagine the cost of it across 900
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take in a specific query. Maybe you can just type it into the Q&A box, and probably we'll just take it up from there and address it from there. Yeah. Well, Nick, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Hemang, and thank you very much for your kind invitation to speak today, and hopefully give everyone some useful information and some insights into the startup and innovator schemes. Okay, so just a little bit of information to start with. There's recently been a bit of an update from the Home Office, so I'm going to touch on that later on. But we just wanted to start off just by telling just a little bit about who we are. Our company, our aim is really to help people grow and to do so by thinking differently. And we've been involved in business support in the UK for quite some time. We've got engineering and service sector backgrounds, and we've got direct experience of starting, running and growing businesses. So hopefully we've been there and done it a little bit too. And that will enable us to empathize with a lot of our, with all of our clients. So if we could just move on the slides, please. Thank you. So a bit about what we do. We do various things, innovation training programs, lots of various innovation related projects, but Innovator International is now our flagship program, and that is our main focus. So what is our purpose of Innovator International? It's about endorsing your business, and we'll go through the process of endorsement very soon. But it's also about supporting your growth whilst you're in the UK and making sure that your personal and business objectives are being met, and ultimately, obviously, leading to settlement. Okay, so we do this by a business support program. So just to make it clear from the start, we only offer endorsements to clients who are on our business support program. So we don't actually charge for the endorsement. Our fees are all related to the actual support program that we deliver. So just wanted to make that clear from the start. The reason for that is that endorsing bodies in the UK are not allowed to charge for endorsement. But obviously we have a requirement and stipulations from the Home Office to assess the business in the first place, to work with that business to support them throughout the period of startups and innovator schemes, be that over 2 or 3 year periods, obviously 5 in total. So what is our business support program? and how did it start? So basically, we designed it to be available anywhere in the UK, so anyone can come and live anywhere in the UK. So there are no restrictions on that. We cover any sector, so we are not sector restricted as some other endorsing bodies are. We will start to work with you when you want to start, so we're very, very flexible. It is a tailored support program. I'll go into more detail on that a little later on. It's a fixed cost program. We say no equity there. We may consider equity in some circumstances, but mainly it's a fixed cost program. And we like to think we have a very efficient assessment process, which we'll go through shortly. Okay, if we can just move on, please. Thank you very much. So, I'm going to cover startup and innovator visas. So startup visas, this is about starting a business in the UK for the first time. Now, you may have actually, and this has happened on a few occasions, you may have actually started to carry out some initial research maybe, or look into starting the business, but you cannot have started trading before you apply and obtain your visa. That's a really important point. Another important point on this is that you have to spend the majority of your time developing your business whilst you're on a startup visa, but you can also take on work outside of the business to support yourself and your family if needed. So you could take on another job. What the Home Office says is that you must spend the majority of your working time, and by definition that's over 50%, that you can work to support yourself whilst you're on a startup visa. So the Innovator Visa, and apologies for the lack of headline under the application process on that one. So for the Innovator Visa, you need to provide evidence of at least 50k. Now, you can either demonstrate that you've already invested £50,000 in the business, or you can demonstrate that you have £50,000 of available funds that you can spend in your business. And that's normally through a bank statement showing funds going into a business, if it's already running, or a bank statement of a current account or a savings account that are available for the business. Now, the difference here with the Innovator Visa is that you must work entirely on that business venture. You're not allowed to have any other form of employment whilst you're on the Innovator Visa. And you're granted leave for 3 years at a time on the Innovator Visa. So whereas the startup is 2, the Innovator is 3. And the scheme is designed such that the people entering on the startup visa, they would have 2 years under that visa and then transition to the Innovator Visa for a further 3 years. And at that point, assuming everything's gone well and you're able to meet 7 criteria for the Home Office, you can then apply for settlement. So I can go into the 7 criteria later on if we have time, but there's quite a bit of information to get through. So I think what I can say is that the switch from startup to innovator is not too onerous. So basically you've had to have started the company, started trading, and made significant progress against your business plan. So it's not overly onerous. Okay, if we could move on, please. Thank you. So for both startup and innovator visas, there are 3 main components for the eligibility criteria. Is the business viable? Is the business innovative? And is the business scalable? So these are the main Home Office requirements that we have to meet within the business plan. And that is essentially what we assess against when we are looking at business plans. So there's a little more information on the next slide. So the basic questions are, will this business survive and thrive in the UK? Does it have a strong value proposition? So they look at essentially two things. They look at, is the business itself viable? Does it make sense? Do the forecasts look sensible, achievable? But they also look at the individual in terms of that person's viability. Have they got experience in the sector? Have they got business experience in other sectors? So for a startup, for example, we take a more lenient view because clearly it's a startup. And it may be that someone's very, very good technically, but they haven't necessarily run a business previously. So we will take that into account. Whereas someone going for an Innovator Visa, we would expect them to have business experience and probably some experience in the sector as well. So we do look at things slightly differently depending on whether you're a startup or an innovator. And I'll come on to that, I'll touch on that point again later on when we talk about our business maturity matrix and how we actually measure the business plans. Innovation is, a bit of a grey area, because innovation means lots of different things to different people. But in this context, it just doesn't mean new technology. It doesn't have to be tech related. So, for example, we get lots of applications and inquiries related to food and drink or the service sector. So our definition of innovation here and the Home Office's definition is more about, is your value proposition providing something different, something that's not readily available in the UK? Because it's all about adding value to the UK economy. So as long as we can determine that something is different, your value proposition is adding value, it's not commonplace in the UK or readily available in the UK, then that hopefully should be sufficient. Clearly, if something is tech-based and it's groundbreaking stuff, then fantastic. But it doesn't necessarily have to be high-tech. Scalability. So obviously, the UK Home Office are looking for businesses that are going to be or have the ability to scale. And what they mean by that is that it isn't just going to be a local trading business. It has to have regional impact. So say for the southeast of England, obviously where London is, it's got to have national impact over the UK and even international impact. And a lot of the businesses that we deal with, and particularly those that are tech-based and there's apps involved, they would be able to have international impact almost immediately, just by the very nature of their product. But essentially what the UK Home Office are looking for is businesses that are going to add value to the UK PLC. They're going to create jobs, going to create taxes for the government, and businesses that can grow. They're not looking for businesses just to come into the UK, start up, employ a couple of people, and then sort of take over. So there's got to be a bit more ambition beyond that. Okay, if we could move on, please. So we'll just move on now to the application process for Innovator International and what that involves. So step one, a pitch deck or an exec summary is ideal for us because it gives us a very good snapshot of the business and gives us also an initial feeling for the level of viability, innovation, and scalability within a business. We're looking for something different. So the quicker that people can sort of latch on to what is their difference, rather than get into maybe the more generic content of the business plan, the quicker you can hit on that for us is much, much better. And if you have provided a pitch deck or an exec summary and we like the look of it, we will then ask for a full business plan. Some people do send in full business plans straight away, and that's absolutely fine. You know, it can work either way, not a problem for us. Okay, if we could move on, please. So how do we assess it? So we've developed a tool called the Business Maturity Matrix, and we look at 10 areas, as you can see there. And we assess where we think, based on the business plan, where we think the business is actually at. And that can go from an initial idea stage where there's not been a lot of market assessment, there's not a sales strategy, the innovation isn't clear. So that would be more at an idea or a conceptual stage. Whereas at the other end of the scale, business is trading, it's generating profits. That would be, you know, a successful trading business. So anywhere in between those, anywhere on that scale, you could be measured by us. So what we do, this is quite important in terms of your business plan and the content of the business plan. We would like to see the business plan addressing all of these areas, because that's what we're going to be measuring the business plan against. And at this point, I'd just like to say, obviously the presentation is being recorded and will be shared, but also on our Innovator International website, innovatorinternational.com, there's a whole host of video resources that will help you to complete the business plan. So there's lots of resources available to you there, from the application process that we're going through now, how to write a business plan, so you don't need to worry about not being able to capture all this information now. It's all there for you on the website. Okay, so if we could just move on, please. So this is just to give you an indicator of how the scoring system would look graphically. So as you can see, 10 stages across the top, and I think this one was a startup applicant. So you can see how we look through the business plan, assess where we think the business is actually at, and then decide on a course of action as to whether we think it's great for a startup or you're not quite ready for an innovator yet. Okay, if we just move on, please. So what happens? Let's assume that we've seen the business plan. The business plan is fantastic. We've been through the assessment process. We've offered you a place on the program. We will then send out a proposal and terms and conditions. We use DocuSign, so it's all electronically done. And once we've received those documents, the signed documents, we would issue the first invoice. And on receipt of that first payment, you're then officially a client of Innovator International. And at that point, if you wish, we can then issue an endorsement letter. So a fairly simple, straightforward process. We've had applications, we've had people contact us with a plan that's been very, very well written. And they've received an endorsement letter. I think the quickest we've done it is within 48 hours. So it can be fairly quick. In other cases, it could take up to a couple of months, all depending on the level of information within the business plan, how quickly the client wants to move, and a number of other factors. But the guidelines, as you can see there, are our initial assessment. We would always attempt to carry out an assessment within 5 working days. Similar for the formal assessment. So if you want to move ahead, we'd supply contracts within 3 days. And then as soon as we receive payment, we will issue an endorsement letter within 48 hours. So just to touch on now, am I okay for time, Hemang? Is that, are we okay? Great. I just wanted to sort of touch on some recent updates from the Home Office, and hopefully this is going to be useful, which it always is when governments tell you more about what they think. And these are subtle changes, they're not massive changes to the scheme. They're subtle but important, I would say. So in terms of viability, what they've said is that they want to see business plans and endorsements that include realistic and achievable targets based on the available resources, was the phrase that they used. Our interpretation of that is that really this is about finance and plans. And I think behind this is the fact that I think a lot of people think, oh, and we do see it a lot in plans. People think, right, well, we can put an initial 10,000 in for a startup or 50K for an innovator, and think, oh, we'll raise the other 200,000 as soon as we get to the UK, because the UK is a great place for raising money. And it is. The UK is a fantastic place for that. But it's like anywhere else in the world, it is not that easy raising money, particularly for an early stage venture. So that's a common misconception that people have. Of course it's possible, of course there are funds to access, and you can raise money, but it isn't easy. You have to have all the correct information, you have to be prepared to answer questions, you've got to have a sound business proposition and plan. You can sort of, yeah, okay. So, yeah, if we can move on, please, that's great. An important point here is that they've actually stated in the rules now that an applicant can change the venture as long as it meets the original criteria. So, for a startup, for example, if you applied under a startup and you received a letter of endorsement, and for whatever reason, your original business idea failed, you can then change to a new business idea under the startup. You don't need to have a new letter of endorsement, but obviously the new venture has to meet the requirements still to be innovative, viable and scalable. If you're an innovator and you're in the same situation where the business actually fails, and of course we're here to make sure that it doesn't, but just in case it did, you can have another business idea under the letter of endorsement, but you would have to invest another 50K for the new idea. So that's one reason why it's really, really important to us, and obviously to our clients, that we carry out that robust assessment in the first place. The last thing that we want is anyone spending money with us and with other people and not having a sufficiently robust plan. So we reject at the moment around about 90% of all the inquiries, applications that come into us. They're not all full business plans, but for a variety of reasons. So we really need to see sound business plans, robust value propositions, good sales strategies, good marketing strategies, and a good financial plan. But you can change under the Innovator, that's the point. And however, what we would say is where, if someone's changing the business plan every 3 to 6 months, that would raise some concerns, are they really sufficiently focused and have they got the right idea? Okay, if we can just move on, please. Okay, so this is really important as well. The Home Office are very, very keen to stress the importance of not allowing people into the UK on the basis of investing in a company for a position. So the new rules and the new sort of buzzwords, if you like, are around co-creation. So what that means is, if there's a business in the UK that's looking for investment and there's someone in another country that's got some money to invest, they cannot simply invest that money into that business and obtain an Innovator Visa. The Home Office is saying that you must have either, you must have co-created, you must have had some intellectual input into the co-creation of that business. That's a really, really important one. And I think probably one of the main reasons for that is they do want some parity with the Tier 1 investor scheme that Hemang spoke about earlier on. So, you know, potentially from on the investor scheme, for example, if you've got someone investing £10 million, that they can apply for settlement within 2 years. For £5 million investments, they can settle within 3 years. Whereas on the Innovator, you could have someone investing 50k and they could apply for settlement after 3 years. So I think that's one of the reasons behind the rationale here. So the key words here are co-creation of the business. You cannot invest into an existing UK business. And you must have been involved since the formation of that business as well. Okay. So just some slight tweaks to our, following these changes, these updates, which were very recent, sort of within the last month from the Home Office, we've sort of tweaked our assessment criteria. So what we do here is that very early on in the assessment process now, we ask ourselves some serious questions about the levels of innovation, viability and scalability, because we have to now report those levels to the Home Office in the endorsement letter. So whilst it doesn't affect our clients much, I suppose it does in terms of the assessment process, because the Home Office want to see the details and they want to see our rationale for allowing the endorsement with that particular client. Okay, if we can move on, please. So, just to try and help everyone with the understanding of innovation and what that means. So we've tweaked our interpretation of this based on the recent Home Office guidance. So those 5 points that you can see there are the key questions that we ask ourselves when we are assessing innovation. So the really important points when you're actually writing your business plan. So clearly the greater understanding that you have of the UK marketplace, the better you will be able to answer those questions. Because if you don't know who's operating regionally already in the UK, and you don't know exactly what they're doing and how you're going to be better than them, you're probably going to have a bit of an issue trying to write that in the business plan. Now, it's not necessarily to say that because someone else is already doing something very similar to your business proposition, doesn't mean to say that it won't be accepted as being sufficiently innovative. Because there are lots of cases where, let's take an example of the EdTech sector at the minute. There's a massive surgence in online learning, for example. So there's huge demand for that, obviously based on the current situation. So there's lots of new businesses springing up that are wanting to provide more online training resources for languages or other skills, and a whole host of apps and website developments that go along with that. So there's an incredible demand at the moment for that. So, you know, as long as you can meet some of the other requirements, that's okay if other people are doing it. You just got to tell us how you're going to do it better, and how you're going to do it slightly more differently. Okay, hope that all makes sense, because it is a bit of a grey area, innovation. So if we could move on, please. So, yeah, if we could just back to the previous slide, please, if that's possible. Yeah, so, yeah, the consumer research one, if that's okay. The next one along. That's it, thank you. So 3 areas that we are now going to be particularly looking at, and this is hot off the press insight for you guys. When we're assessing business plans, it really strengthens the proposition if you've been able to include some consumer research. So, you know, who is going to buy your product? The more feedback that you can get from potential customers, it makes your proposition much, much stronger. We see lots of very generic marketing plans and marketing strategies. We're going to do social media, we're going to have a website, we're going to put some leaflets out, etc. They're very generic. So if the more that you can home in on what your customer needs, and if you've had the ability to get some direct feedback from them, then that really strengthens your case. We also like as well, we're going to ask people to include a form of a project plan. And one of the reasons for that is that we see very often in year 1, we're going to hit £500,000 worth of sales. Oh, and by the way, we were also developing an app and a website. So, you know, looking at how that app development, the timescale for the app development, what that involves, who's going to do it, how much is it going to cost, and then a ramp up for sales once it's been tested properly and it works. It's really, really crucial to starting a business. You can't just lump the whole things together. So what would really help with that is, and it doesn't have to be a complicated project plan, it's a simple Gantt chart of activity, headline activities, when they're going to happen, how much they're going to cost, who's going to do them. So very, very simple stuff. One thing that is almost entirely missing from every business plan that we see, and we see a lot of them, is a risk plan. So what this is about is a business assessing what could go wrong. What are the impacts if it does go wrong? Is it minor? Is it negligible? Or is it absolutely catastrophic? Now, I'm pretty sure no one had COVID-19 in their corporate risk plans. But however, you know, it happened and people had to adapt and change very quickly. So the inclusion of a risk plan, you know, as an example, what if sales don't happen as quickly as we'd hoped within the first 6 months? You know, what if the sales plan is, what if the sales are 20% of what we'd hoped? What impact will that have? What if there are legislation changes? What are we going to do then? So it's identifying the major risks, potential risks that lie within your business, the potential impact that they could have, and how you're going to plan around them, how you're going to mitigate those risks. So you'll score very, very highly if you put a nice risk plan in there. And again, there's guidance on all these things on the website. Okay, if we can move on, please. Okay, so those are the 10 areas that we would assess a business plan against. And again, in the guidance on the website, there's a video on how to construct a business plan, taking all these areas into account. So hopefully that will be very useful for you. We can move on, please. So yeah, as I say, visit the website. There will be a business plan template there. And we're also in the process of developing a short course as well, just to help people really with everything that we've talked about today. You know, information on the visas, the application process, how to write a business plan. So hopefully that course will be available in the next few months. So just a little bit to finish off, we're near towards the end now, Hemang. So just about around our program of support. So essentially what we do is that we ensure that a person's personal and business goals are aligned, because it's really, really important that those two are working in parallel. Because what you can't have is, you know, one without the other. Essentially, you could have a situation potentially where the business is doing very well, but actually you get to the 3-year stage at an Innovator Visa and you think, oh, well, I'd forgotten about the 7 criteria for the Home Office. So you've got to make sure that, you know, your business is a success, but you're also personally working towards those settlement criteria. So what we do, at the start of our business support program, we will sit down with the client, we will set some targets, agree some targets over the next 2-3 years, and we will provide ongoing support on that basis. So for a startup, for example, it's at least at 1 day per quarter, and for an innovator, it's 1 day or the equivalent to 1 day a month. I say equivalent because we're very, very flexible in how we can support people. That could be email, Zoom, telephone call, in-person meeting, as and when circumstances allow. But it's really all about providing you with the support as and when you need it. What we can't do and what we won't do is run your business for you on a day-to-day basis. That is your responsibility. So we are there to support, not run your business. So just wanted to make that clear, which we do with every client. A couple of other things that we've recently introduced in terms of our service to clients. There's a fantastic course called Success GPS that is run over a 6-week period. And what that does, it really, really makes you think about what you want to achieve personally and what you want to achieve in business. And essentially, it's a strategic and operational planning process. It will help you with developing a sales strategy. It will help you with developing a really strong value proposition. It will help you in lots of areas, trust me, because we've been through it and it's great. We've also got some online sales training, again, over a 6-week period, so typically 2-hour sessions. And these are going to be particularly great where you've got someone who's got really very good technical skills, but has never actually sold anything before. So this is all about giving you some core basic selling skills and techniques that you can use in your business. So again, very, very useful, all online. Both of those two, they're all on exclusively online. And those courses are all covered within the Innovator International fees. There's no additional cost for accessing those. So, and we're looking to develop further training along those lines as well. So I think that's about it. Thank you all for staying with me for such a long time. I know we've covered a lot of information there, but as I say, access to this, all this is available on our website, and I'm sure via Hemang's resources as well. You've got all the information that you could possibly need regarding these visas. So I hope that's been useful for everyone, and I'll hand over back to Hemang.
Right. Thank you, Nick, for that. It was really, really insightful, and we've got quite a few questions popping into the box. So if you have a few minutes, could address it. They've got a few queries that need answering. So you okay to take a few questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Superb. So Surbhi, do you want to take that over?
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much, Nick and Hemang. So we have a question from Candice. How do the most successful applicants conduct market research or when they might be unfamiliar with UK culture and trends and might not have lived or experienced being in UK?
That's a great question, and not an easy one to answer, but I shall try. So obviously, the vast majority of business plans that we see have conducted a lot of desk research. And if you're doing this yourself, I mean, a lot of people get professional business plan writers to do this for them, but obviously that comes at a cost, and the business plan writer would do a lot of that desk research as well, because they've got probably more access to more resources than an individual may have. However, individuals can do a lot of desk research. I guess the only other route really is if they know friends, family, connections who have experience of the country or are living in the country, where they could maybe ask them if they have any routes to that information. And I think that's really all you can do. If you've not lived in the UK or you've not experienced the UK. So it's really those two things. It's desk research, but really trying to, if you can, through your contacts, through someone on LinkedIn or wherever, to try and access someone who then knows someone who can provide you with that information. And what I would say is it's not, whilst it's really important and strengthens proposition, it's not an absolute showstopper if you cannot access that direct consumer and market research.
Right.
Okay.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. I hope that helped, Candice. So we have another question from Bhanu. I'm interested in startup Innovator Visa. Currently, I'm doing international business. He's into IT, hardware, refurbished business in India, and he would like to start the same in UK. So could you please advise what should be the further steps?
Okay. Well, firstly, if they're already running a business somewhere else, that can be a really good, that can be in their favour, because obviously they've got the experience of running the business, and obviously technically they know what they're doing. Again, the process would involve really if he could put an executive summary forward of what it is that they're doing, how they propose to do it in the UK, what's going to be different about it in the UK. We would make that, and any other endorsing body as well would make that assessment. So essentially it has to meet those three key criteria of being sufficiently innovative, viable and scalable. So what I would suggest is that in any executive summary or initial document that you put forward, please try and address those three factors.
Right, because I think are the most important.
If there's lots of similar businesses in the UK, that is going to make it challenging. I'll admit that will make it challenging, because if you're simply duplicating a lot of what UK businesses are already doing, that is a challenge.
All right, thank you so much. We have another question by Atif. He's just curious to know what kind of contract is given by Innovator International to the clients.
Okay, so it's a fairly standard contract with terms and conditions. Obviously, I can't read through them all now, but I'm happy to send Hemang copy examples of our proposals that we send out and the terms and conditions. I'm very happy for Hemang to forward those on to anyone that's interested. So I mean, basically, the key requirements are, if for whatever reason that you withdraw from the program, then potentially the endorsement is withdrawn, and that could mean that your visa is withdrawn. So we'll stick with you, but you've got to stick with us, is basically the spirit of the contract.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Akhil wants to know that is startup visa majorly for graduates from UK universities?
Yes. So so we're not immigration advisors. I would stress that right at the start. So we're an endorsing body. I'll leave the technical aspects to Hemang. But
Yes.
however, yes, so graduates can switch to startup and innovator visas. In fact, a lot of the universities in the UK are endorsing bodies for startup visas. So the answer to that one is yes. I mean, there are different conditions for Tier 4 student visas, as you know, in terms of when they were issued and what people can and can't do. But that's quite a technical question that probably needs Hemang's expertise on that one.
Right, right. So, Mr. Hemang, if you could answer that for us. And also there's another question which is on the same lines, that will a recent UK graduate have advantage towards endorsement? This question is by Sanvita.
I don't, as far as we're concerned, not necessarily, because we would look at those business plans, whether it doesn't matter to us whether they're in the UK or somewhere else.
Right.
We would do the same assessment criteria. Clearly, they may have an advantage through knowledge of the UK market,
Right.
but you know, we would try and look at it very, very objectively.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm just
Yes, so just kind of building on
Yes.
on Nick's answers as well. So if you are a graduate from a UK university, obviously, I mean, the university may have a little bit of preference in terms of evaluating the plan and being a bit more partial to its own graduates. But as Nick said, that, you know, individual or independent bodies are a lot more open to evaluate ideas. So yeah, I mean, if you think that, you know, if you are a recent graduate, then you could give your university, you know, a shout to kind of see if they can evaluate your idea and if they find it innovative enough. But if you're not a recent graduate and you know, if you don't have any connect with the universities, you could definitely, you know, take it up with endorsing bodies like Innovator International, and they will be happy to evaluate it on its merits and then you know, advise you in terms of you know, granting an endorsement for that.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. We have another question by Candice. Do we still have time for questions? I think we can take 2-3 questions more. Is that fine by Mr. Hemang and Mr. Nick?
Yes, that's okay with me.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Hemang?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. So we have a question by Anuj. Currently, he's in India and his company is registered in UK under the company house. His question is how to open company bank accounts in the UK.
Okay, that's fairly straightforward in terms of opening a business bank account. There's lots of very good deals. For example, you know, some banks do free business banking for a period of up to 2 years. So people like, you know, Santander. I'm not on commission from Santander, by the way, but that's just one example that happens. So it's a very straightforward process. As long as you've registered your company and, you know, you pass the validation checks, it's a very straightforward process.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it doesn't take much time. It's done
No,
in
no,
a couple of days. I
no,
think in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Online banking in the UK is I think is very, very good.
I agree. I agree. This is the last question that we're going to take. Is there any minimum amount of meetings that have to be held between the innovator and the endorsing body? And has there been any change by the Home Office recently?
So the endorsing bodies have to report to the Home Office on progress of each business that they've endorsed at 6 monthly periods. So 6, 12, 18, 24 months. So the Home Office would expect to see, you know, some sort of report and feedback in terms of progress. But obviously our support program is higher than that anyway, as I said. So as a minimum, you know, we would have contact every quarter with a startup and every month with an innovator. So we would know exactly where the business is at. If there's any issues that, any actions that need to be resolved. So for example, if things do start to go a bit off track, we will be saying, right, okay, let's deal with this, let's put some actions in place to get back on track, so that when we do have to report to the Home Office, everything's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick. Candice, I hope that answered your question. Well, we're running out of time, but if there are any questions, if you want to start the process, if there are any queries, feel free to get in touch with us. Our email ID and contact number is mentioned on your screen. You could make a note of that. You could take a picture on your phone. All right, thank you, sir. We'll be sending.
Sorry, just one last bit. And Nick, we just had a couple of queries in terms of kind of costs associated with Innovator International. Do you want to shed some light on that, or a brief overview, something that you could put out?
So our fees for startup applicants is £5,000 per year per applicant. So we do apply discount if there are more than one person's involved. So we apply 50% discount. But our fees for startups is 5K per year. So a total of £10,000 per innovator. Our fees for the Innovator program are £12,000 per year per innovator, obviously for 3 years. Just a quick note on that as well, all the fees will incur value-added tax at 20%, but obviously that can be reclaimed by the business as long as they register themselves, which we would hope they would do anyway, with the VAT office in the UK. So you can reclaim the 20% of that.
Superb. Right, okay, thanks ever so much for that.
Yeah, again, I can provide Hemang with more details of the fee structure and how that works, and Hemang can share that as well.
Yes, we'll be sharing the presentation as well as the recording, both Mr. Nick and Mr. Hemang's presentations with all the attendees today, along with the recording. Please feel free to get in touch with us. The contact details, like I said earlier, I mentioned on the screen in front of you. All right, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to thank all the participants. I would love to thank our panelists today, Mr. Hemang and Mr. Nick. Thank you for removing the time and joining us today.
Many thanks for the opportunity to speak to you guys, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Likewise.
Thank you, Nick.
Likewise.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's great, well done.
Yeah, it was all right, wasn't it?
Good, good. Interesting. You spoke well, wasn't boring.
Well, good. Thanks, Charlotte. You're awesome.
Hello, Mr. Bhanu. In terms of next steps, what you could do is you could just mail me or WhatsApp me on the email IDs and the number that was mentioned on the screen earlier, and I'll get in touch with you and we can start the process, and we can evaluate the eligibility and start the process. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, I'm here to take up your questions. If there are any queries, I'm here. Sure, I'm just going to mention my number. Give me a minute. All right. That's my phone number. That's even active on WhatsApp. You can WhatsApp me. That's fine as well. This is my email ID. I am Surbhi Mehta. All right. Anybody, if you all have any queries, if you have any questions, please, I'm here for a while. You could ask me your questions. You could drop in your questions. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you could raise your hand if you're unable to do that, and I could unmute you. Hi, Atif. Yes, hi, Atif.
Hello?
Yes, hi, Atif.
Yes, it was just still on, so I didn't.
Yes, Atif, please tell me. Do you,
I think it was very useful event actually.
thank you so much, Atif. I really appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, it's I received invitation on WhatsApp from some guy. But
Yes.
it's very useful. Actually, I was already in the middle of this process.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I have a startup means innovator business idea, and these last few days I was trying to refine my business plan, written business plan. But
Okay.
this Mr. Nick has given me, more motivation and
Yes. Yes.
more
Yes.
information.
They are one of the most trusted endorsing bodies in the UK. And so, Atif, if I can ask you, how far have you reached in terms of the progress of the application?
Actually, I will tell you. Sorry, I forgot your name. I'm sorry.
Surbi.
Surbi.
Atif, what we can do is, can you personally, privately message me your phone number as well as your email ID? I'll get in touch with you.
Yes, yes.
Do you see that option? If you go to chat and if you go to you'll see Surbhi Mehta, or you can see SmartMove Immigration, and you could just send your contact number and email ID.
I don't see any number here in the chat. Chat option.
Yeah, down. It's next to participants. So this is for everybody who those of you who want me to get in touch with you. If you could just yes, hi sir. Yes, hi.
Madam, I cannot see your number.
Hi, Sankadeep. I have shared my contact details. If you could just scroll up, but I'll do that again. Just give me a minute. I think I'm just going to try and pin this. I'm unable to do that, but I'll just pop in my contact details again. Yes, that's my contact number.
Did you write in the chat box?
Yes, yes.
I cannot see this. I have Zoom webinar chat in that. I did not see your number.
Okay, just give me a minute. I'm going to try it in that again. All right. Can you see my contact number now? Everybody, those who can, please, if you could just raise your hand.
In the
Yeah?
yes, I can see it now.
Yes, perfect. Thank you everybody for your feedback. So this is my contact number. I'll just mention my email ID as well. Yes. So I of course have your details. I'll get in touch with all of you all. If you could, in case I miss it when I'm recovering your details, if you could just message me your details as well, so I could quickly get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure.
Sankadeep, Atif, Mr. Bhanu, Rohit, if all of you could just message me. Thank you so much, Rohit. I'll get in touch with you. Thank you so much, Atif. Atif, whereabouts are you based, Atif?
Dubai.
Dubai. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, and look
Thank you.
forward to
Thank
work
you.
with you in the future. Thank you so
Yes.
kind of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Yes, hi, Mr. Bala. So, tier two, definitely, yes, yes. My director is a UK qualified solicitor. Tier two applications are one of the expertise, and this is, we hold a lot of pride when it comes to these applications because of the success rate that we've had. So yes, we do help with tier two applications. What I could do is, Bala, I could get in touch with you, and we could have a detailed conversation, for a finer understanding of your requirements, and I could run you through the entire process. If you could just share your contact details with me. Thank you so much, Manish. Yes, I've received your details. Perfect. Thank you, Bala. I'm looking forward to your mail. Hi, Sankadeep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
All good, all good. Yeah, so I joined a little late. I just wanted to ask that for the startup visa, as Nick mentioned, that it's basically for the universities. But
Yes.
I'm curious that if Innovator International does give startup visa as well.
Yes, they do. They do assist with startup visas as well.
Okay. Okay.
What I
Because
can do is, yes, what I can do is I could share all the details of Mr. Hemang and Mr. Nick, and we could have a detailed conversation on this. I think you've dropped in your details, right?
yeah, I did. I did. I think
Perfect.
my website. Sorry, this thing was wrong. I'll put it back here. And one more question. I just wanted to ask because I have my company here in India, and we are basically sort of our clients are based in US. So we have a
Okay.
couple of clients. It's in the construction tech. So just wanted to ask that with the do they also help in talking to investors or anything? No, it's just.
Well, we can definitely help you. SmartMove Immigration can definitely help you connecting with investors. So we could look into that aspect as well.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah?
we have. Okay, no problem. We'll just do it on the private chat. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. All right. I'm just going to log out now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll get in touch with you soon, and hope you all have a great evening ahead. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Sankadeep, I got your email ID. Yes, I'll get in touch with you. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe. Bye-bye.